There was a time slid the key under the door and I was leaving town. Thank God the next morning I decided to go back and give it a shot. We were broke, starving to death, borrowed on credit cards and had probably 10 or 15 credit cards and $500 limits up to maybe $2,000 limits. Sometimes success is when you don't have anything.
Welcome to the first episode of the Southern Executive Experience. I'm your host, Jamie Johnson. I'm here with Ashley Johnson, the owner and founder of Ashley's Business Solutions. And I apologize if you hear me call him Dad because he is my father, and I forced him to be my first guest today. Dad, thank you for coming on today and being a part of the first episode here. I know I had to pull you a little bit, so force you a little bit to do this, but I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Good deal.
You know I don't like to be in front of the camera much.
I know. I just want to start off by introduce yourself. Just say who you are. You're the. I know we already said you're the founder of Ashley's Business Solutions, but just introduce yourself to the.
Well, I'm Ashley Johnson. I'm president of Ashley's Business Solutions, and we started, back in 1983.
That's right.
So that's when we started it.
What made you want to get into the office equipment, or what? How did you get started?
Well, we got started. I worked for another company at first, and opened up office supplies and furniture, and then gravitated in 8 or 10 years later into the copier industry.
Gotcha. What as far as Ashley's is started off in Tifton, Georgia.
That's correct.
And you opened up, I think your second office was Albany or Valdosta?
Albany,
Georgia, and kind of grew from there, and has grown from one office into now 6 offices, Tifton, Albany, Valdosta, Savannah, Brunswick, and now even Macon, Georgia.
That's correct.
And as far everything right now, see, it's fine. We're just gonna mumble and stumble through this. But as far as what would you say has separated your company from, and what has separated you and helped you become what you are today, your Ashley's?
Well, I think the employees mainly we've chosen the right people to work for us, and went through a lot of good ones, and and got a good group of people, and we just focus on service. You can buy what we sell anywhere. Just like anybody else. The only thing that makes a difference is good service and good people.
And I think I've told you that before. I think one of the biggest things I know, I've said that to you before, that I've always admired about you, is the fact of your employees, the way you treat them, and the way they, you've got people that have been there for 30 years, the whole time you've owned the company, 40 years, and that's one of the biggest things I think I've always admired about you.
You said something about employees. It's like family at Ashley's, as you know, and that's. I wanted to throw that in. It's not just they're co-workers, not employees.
That's right. What do you look for in an employee?
Man, it's getting tougher and tougher because the age gap of what I am now and what we're hiring now. So I have to let some of the middle management pick those people because they can relate to them more than I can. Being 40 years difference in age, that's tough because it's a whole different mindset.
That's right.
That's the struggle right now.
Yeah. You say you let your management kind of handle that. What are they looking for? What kind of employee are you looking for when you're out there looking for people?
It's according to what department it is, but sales, you're looking for somebody with high energy, that's very disciplined. And then, if you're looking for, every segment of the business, you're looking for a different type person,
Right. What do you? I know a little bit more about you than I probably than most things, so I may kind of lead some of this, but I know that you, for your employees, I think that what I've known about you is that you pride yourself on being able to motivate people. I think that's what you've said to me many times, and that you've pride yourself on being able to motivate and help employees and that kind of thing.
Well, I used to be a lot more motivated than I am now.
I know.
I have to depend on other people to motivate them now. Right. Motivate people, but just because of the age difference, it's hard to.
Well, talk about what are some of those things you used to do, even before the new generation, back when you built the company. What are those things that you used to do to motivate people?
Well, that's tough. I mean, we listened to a lot of tapes back then,
Right.
read a lot of books, and just put out carrots to trips, whether it's trips or, ball games or whatever we would do for the incentive to work harder to do the extra things.
Right.
And just we watch people, the people that get up early, the people that's motivated. You can't really, you got to hire people that's already has it in them. You can't put it in them.
Right.
It's hard.
Right.
So it's not that I'm a motivator. It's just you got to weed through the people that's not self-motivated, because you got to be self-motivated if you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. What made you successful?
Oh, I don't know if I'm that successful, but I guess I came from a very humbling background, and I just to get ahead, we were, I had a lot of good leaders, worked for other companies, and they were motivated me and held my feet to the fire. And I think they just instilled in me, hard work. Yep.
Well, on that note, can you talk a little bit about some of the jobs you had before you started Ashley's Business Solutions?
Oh man, I had so many jobs from 16 to 24, but main thing is First Franklin Financial. I had a good mentor there that worked with me for 2 or 3 years, and held me, made me very accountable.
Right.
And so that really helped. And then of course I went to work in the industry with Doug Walker Business Machines over in Waycross, and he was pretty tough.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't let you get away with anything.
Right.
And I think back of how we used to do it then, and we're so relaxed now in our company. I feel that it's good and bad.
Right.
I just think that he had his thumb on everything and watched everything you did, and how much time you put in and now we're a little bit too lax. But everybody's more lax now.
It is. I mean, the difference from when I started to now. I mean, I remember wearing a. Of course, I may not have should have worn this. It's maybe too hot, but I wore a whole suit when I first started cold calling. I was out knocking on doors in Valdosta, Georgia, in a 3-piece suit. And if you wore that today, they wouldn't even let you in the door. They think you were weird if you were wearing a suit. So,
That's right. I mean, here I am sitting here talking to you with not even wearing socks today.
I know.
And we used to. Everyone that worked in the industry had to wear shoes that you had shined. You couldn't wear casual shoes like we do today. I think that's hurt all businesses being so casual, but everything's computer and online now, a lot of stuff that people just don't, whether you work at a bank or wherever you work, everybody was dressed up. Now, golf shirts, just like you're dressed, and pack a pair of khakis, that's it.
That's funny. I meant to change before we started filming. So
Yeah.
I meant to put on a long sleeve shirt before I started filming, but I'm representing the SSI, I guess, today. So, we'll go back to that in a second. I kind of want to jump back for a second. You mentioned a mentor of yours from First Franklin.
Right, Gerald Coffey.
Gerald Coffey.
Yes, he's passed away now.
Yeah. My whole life I've heard about Gerald Coffey.
That's right.
And you mentioned some of the things he taught you, and I'm thinking of a couple stories in my mind that from those days that you told me. But what lessons did he teach you back when you were 19, 20 years old working, starting out, that you still think that are prevalent for today?
Well, we worked then. There was no such thing as an 8-hour day.
Right.
It was can to can.
Yeah.
In other words, it was Saturdays. No different. I mean, he taught me that it's 24 hours in a day and so many hours in a week, and you better not waste many of them.
Right.
You sleep so many hours, and you better be accountable for the rest of them.
Let's go back and kind of tell me a little bit about, the struggles and getting started. I know you, I know that, you worked for Uncle Doug for a while.
That's right.
And then you started working over in the Tifton area. And I want you to tell how you decided which direction to go, whether to go east or west. I want you to tell that story,
Oh, God.
and then go from there. So and just go into how you started going that way, and then how you decided to open up and go from there.
Well, I don't know where to start, but I'll start in Tifton. I was working in Tifton,
Yeah.
and already had an office there in Tifton. And, you know, people always, first thing, it was very tough. After I bought the business there, started the business in Tifton, it was very tough. I had a real tough 3 or 4 years. Signed the note for about $45,000. Doug was nice enough to co-sign that note with us. And, but I didn't have any money to operate with.
Right.
So, you know, I had a business, but I couldn't. I had a couple of people working with me, and I had no way of paying them. I think I might have had $5,000 in the checking account at the time, and it went out. It was gone first couple of weeks. So I hate to say this, but you know, we had credit cards, and we borrowed on credit cards, and had probably 10 or 15 credit cards, and $500 limits up to maybe $2,000 limits,
Right.
and that's how we survived, paying with those credit cards, and you know, it was tough. And then after that, you know, the bankers, nobody would loan us any money in Tifton.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have any track record, and we were broke, starving to death. And so it was just a tough go to start with. Yeah. But I think the story you wanted to hear about how I decided to come to Tifton, you know, later on in life, you know, when everything was booming and pretty much we weren't going to go under, you know, I worked in Waycross for Doug.
Right.
I worked Tifton 2 days a week and Brunswick 2 days a week. And I'd come to Brunswick, and then I'd go to Tifton, and I drove back to Waycross every day. That was long. That was before it was 4-lane. That was 2-lane roads.
Right.
And so I tell people the reason I opened up in Tifton and spent all my time there, because living in Waycross at the time when we started, is because the sun set, when the sun came up in my back going to work, and it set in my back, on my back going home. So in other words, it wasn't that I was a genius knowing that this market over here would be great,
Right.
but it was the fact that I wanted the sun behind me instead of in my face when I went to work.
A little dumb luck never hurt nobody.
That was exactly what happened. That's how I chose to go to Tifton instead of Brunswick in 1983.
And that would have never know. That could have changed the whole deal.
Well, it changed a whole lot of folks I know now.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
True. Yeah. So you went to Tifton, and you opened up didn't have much go. I mean, just getting started. And at this point, we were just doing office supplies.
Office supplies and furniture.
Office supplies and furniture. Yeah. And from there, what happened next?
Well, you know, after about 6 to 8 years, we started piddling in the copier business.
Right.
And then
why did you decide to do that? What made you go from the office supplies to the copiers?
Well, two things.
Yeah.
First, I would go to conventions. And I mean, this may be a little, but I'd go to conventions. I'd go to the copier conventions. I'd go to the furniture conventions, office supply conventions, and, you know, go to classes and study. And I noticed all the copier people had a better lifestyle than the office supply people.
Yeah.
And office supplies and furniture was easy to become a commodity item,
Right.
which has happened now, you know, with the all the mail order.
Right.
And the copiers, if you run a good service department, you know, that business won't go away. You know, I mean, regardless, a lot of people, the small little end, yes, you can get small copiers from Home Depot or mail order or wherever.
Right.
But to be able to really service and people that need service on their machines that doesn't want to buy the cartridges and stuff like that, you know, you can still have a solid business.
That's right.
And that's the reason I got in that business, because you could build service instead of just a commodity item.
That's right. More of a residual.
That's right.
Residual type thing coming in. And what was the second reason? Yeah, that was the second reason.
That was
The second reason. First, yeah. So so you're getting started, and you're 6 or so years in, and you're trying to figure things out still.
Oh, it was tough. I mean, there was a couple of times that I started not to come back. Matter of fact, there was a time, and you remember me telling you this, that I went when I left work that night, I slid the key under the door, and I was leaving town. And I was advised, I won't say how or who, but I was advised that I wasn't going to make it.
Right.
So you might as well leave town, start over somewhere else.
Right.
And I slid the key under, and thank God the next morning I decided to go back and give it a shot, and I had to wait on a couple of the employees to get there with the key to let me in, but they didn't know I was waiting on them.
Right.
But I had to let them get there first because the key was already in the building, my key, to get in.
Oh man.
I mean, I hate to tell that, but that's just how close I come from giving up.
Well,
So-
I think that, you know what, of course, I only know from other people, but you know, everybody you talk about, you know, the people that failed, most people just gave up too soon,
That's it.
you know, and you stay going, you keep going. And a lot of times, you know, you feel like you're going to fail and you fail, but you know, it's about perseverance and keep moving forward.
It is. And it's hard. I mean, it's very hard, you know, when you don't have anything. But there again, I think sometimes success is when you don't have anything. You don't have anything to lose,
Right.
So you can try anything to succeed. You know, to where if you already have a home or a you know,
Something to lose.
something to lose, it's
Yeah.
harder to take a chance. But we had nothing, so that was the reason.
Come a long way.
Come a long way. Been fortunate.
That's
Very
right.
blessed.
That's right. Well, and I think at that point you probably had a handful of employees.
Oh yes.
I mean, and
By then 5 or 6, yes.
are you still downtown Brunswick? I mean, sorry, downtown Tifton, Georgia. We're
No, now you know, we moved out, bought a building out in outside of town.
Yep.
It was outside of town when we got it.
Right.
But town's growing all around it now.
That's right.
So
And let's talk about a little bit, as I know this story too, but let's talk about a little bit when you decided to get into copiers. Can you tell the story about when you went to the copier convention?
well, Ricky and Bob and I, Ricky at the time was our service manager and Bob was sales, and we really didn't have titles. That's just sort of what we did. And we went to Orlando where all the copier companies were, and nobody would give us the time of day because
Yep.
we were a new startup, and you know the odds of making it.
Right.
But then we finally had a company that the last day, I didn't even go that afternoon. They came back to the hotel telling me, we found somebody that wanted to talk to us
Yeah.
about opening up. And so it was Toshiba
Right.
at the time. And so next week he came up to Tifton and we started selling the Toshiba brand at that time.
Yeah. And you know, I think we started off selling the desktops, right? I mean, we did
Small desktops only.
small desktops and worked our way up and kind of grew from there. And when you're getting in the industry and learning it, did you find any mentors in your industry? I mean, as far as other business owners, or how did you learn the copier business and learn that side after being only in the office supplies and everything?
Well, remember now, when I worked with Doug, before I opened up my own, we were in the copier business.
That's right.
So I sold copiers for Doug,
Right.
Walker Business Machines out of Waycross.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew the business. I knew a little bit about the business, and I enjoyed it. I just couldn't, when I opened up my own, I couldn't afford getting in the machine side. It takes more money to get in that. So that's the reason I got into the office supplies and furniture. I couldn't afford to get straight into the copier side.
Gotcha.
But when I did start signing up with Toshiba and went to conventions and to all the classes they had, I met a lot of owners that were a lot older than I was. I used to be the youngest guy in the business.
Right.
Now I'm one of the older ones. And some of them took me under the wing and taught me. And I spent a lot of time with those, going out to their businesses and meeting with them. And they let me work with their sales managers and service managers and spend time with them. And that's how we really did it.
Right. Learn from others.
Learn from others.
That's
We
right.
didn't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
We hadn't reinvented the wheel in anything. We just take what other people do, try to follow the ones and make it a little bit better.
That's right. And that's the smart way to do. Figure out what somebody else did and just try to do it your own way.
That's right.
Do it your own way. And any regrets? Yeah, what is? I know you probably got. I know everybody's got regrets.
Got
but
a lot of them.
from the early days. What was business wise? Is there anything you'd have done differently?
Oh, I would have done a lot of things differently, and we won't talk about that. Personally and business.
Right.
You know, I mean, I tell people I didn't grow up till I was 48 years old, but so I did a lot of things to damage my business. I was a hard worker, but I did a lot of things to damage my business and my personal life. up until the age of 48.
Right.
So, we won't even talk about all that.
Well, do you want to talk about what you changed, what happened at 48?
Well, I'm not no, yes, I can talk about it a little bit. I would love to. I was headed back from Miami, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida one day, and I thought I had the world by the tail, had a little bit of success and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden I was just started crying, And so, I was miserable, had everything. If you looked at my life, most men 40-something years old would have thought I had it by the life made. And then all of a sudden, I pulled off in a little town down in Florida on the turnpike and got out at a little church that first thing I saw, and I just started crying, and I just right then realized I wasn't doing things right.
Right.
And so I got on my knees at that church, and I asked God to forgive me for the way I've lived and ran my life up to then. And from that day on, I didn't actually change like that, like you hear all these things, but I did start reading and studying and going to church. I gave my heart to Him, and I've been living for Him ever since. And that's the number one best thing I ever did for my business.
Even for your personal life and your business.
Personal life and business, it is. Very, very much so. I think people ask me to this day, and it's sort of corny to a lot of people that doesn't believe, but they say, "What's your number one thing for success?" I said, "Tithe."
Yeah.
And I've told you that.
Yep.
The best thing you can do for your financial situation, not that you should be given to just for that reason, but the best thing you can do is tithe. Right. And so for the last 19 years, that it's been proven, if the ones that know me real close, it's been proven that it has been amazing.
Right. I know you've not preached that into our heads, but I know you've talked to me a lot about that, especially the past 10 or so years about the tithe, and I don't know if this is going to make it into the podcast or not, but I know I tithe, and I think we disagree on one thing. I don't disagree, but I personally tithe on what I get after taxes.
Well,
and that makes me sleep at night. I don't,
nobody's judging.
Yeah. So I know you do before, before. I don't know what's right, but that's just I don't know. That's what I feel comfortable with. I don't know why. I always say that I can't control what the government takes out of my check, so I just tithe on what's left over. But
well, I'm not here to say which one's right or wrong.
Right.
So but I just know this: it's a difference in giving and tithing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people give, and I just know if you start tithing, things will. I'm not saying financial things.
Right.
But you'll find in your life, because you're disciplined, it's not your 10% anyway.
Right.
We can live on 90%, a lot better than you can live on 100%. Mm-hmm. I can promise you. Well, I didn't mean this meeting to get going on that direction, but that's the big picture. Regardless of business, regardless of anything,
Well, that's what this
is finding Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir. I'm doing this for a couple reasons. I'm doing this so I believe people like yourself, you can inspire different people in the community. I didn't mention this yet, but you're from Nichols, Georgia, and I want this podcast to help people. I want this podcast to not only help the people that I'm bringing on and share about their story, but I know there's a story to tell. And real quick, the reason that I started this podcast was 5 years ago. Mr. Jerry owns Jerry's J's. Now it's 99 Concepts, and they've done big things. I was sitting in his office, and he was talking to me about everything, life, God. We talked about Uncle Doug. We talked about it all. And that's when this first idea popped in my head 5-6 years ago, to do that.
Right.
And to share that story of coming from nothing, and also the things that inspire you and the things that drove you. So yeah, I'm talk about it all you want to.
Well, the only thing I'll say before we get off is the fact that you just can't believe, you try to do everything yourself. You just think, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, me. And, I made a lot of mistakes personally, business and everything, but thank goodness I changed, still do a lot wrong today.
Right.
But I want to do what he guides me to do, and I want to do everything that we have at Ashley's and anything, everybody knows this at the company, the way we feel. You know, it may not show every day. I wished it did, but you know, we're here to help build a kingdom for Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And kind of on the same note and going back to business.
I know one
go-
thing.
yeah.
A lot of people that hears this will think it's corny, but you know, it's not corny.
But at 38, what did you change?
Oh, you mean by 48, 49?
49.
I was 49. Well, I started changing the books.
Yeah.
Reading the important book. You know.
right. Yeah.
Try to on a daily basis and listen to, more so instead of motivational speakers, more spiritual leaders.
Yep.
You know, and you know, starting my morning that way, and it doesn't change like the snap of your fingers. It takes a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing I changed, and just cut out a lot of foolishness that I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and quit all that foolishness that we all call fun. You know, holds us back from what we really get. And some people wait too late. You're never too late, but I mean, to do anything about it, as far as you look back and you have a lot of regrets, because like you said earlier in the podcast, I got a lot of regrets,
Yeah.
and we're not going to go back there.
We don't have to. We don't
No.
have to do that. We don't
Okay.
have to do that. But you changed. You did some things, and you made little changes that grew into big changes.
Oh, no doubt.
You know,
No doubt.
I'd like to back up one quick second too, and to talk about one thing. I know growing up in Nichols, Georgia, the big town of Nichols, Georgia, and growing up, and some of these stories may not be true, but I was always told these things. So delivering second day old newspapers, selling old newspapers. Okay, Canada in the summer, picking tobacco.
That's true.
I always remember stories of selling old newspapers, but talk a little bit about growing up in Nichols, Georgia.
Well, you know, there's not a lot to say. Of course, we were very poor. You know, we did go to Canada. I went when I turned 16, 17, go up, and there were 6 or 7 guys went to Canada and cropped tobacco.
Right.
They call it priming tobacco there. But that was how we got our school clothes. We'd stay about 8 weeks, 9 weeks till the tobacco froze. And then we'd pick up a good bit of money, and that'd buy all of our school clothes for the year. And we did that. But the newspaper, my grandfather did have a newspaper, but it wasn't 2 days old now. I think that might have been a story when I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
That one of my sisters might have told I was doing something like that when I was just 5 or 6. But we did have a paper route, but it was the day's paper.
Okay. It wasn't the old paper.
It wasn't that. That's correct.
Okay.
But no, I mean, yeah, we did. My grandmother was a very Christian woman that raised me, and you know, and I'd caught chickens and at night, played basketball and went to school during the day and did a lot of jobs and things. And we were on welfare. I mean, I don't mind saying that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say poor on me. I don't want to sit here and talk about. Everybody's got war stories.
Yeah.
That's what I call war stories.
Yes, sir.
I was blessed enough to have people around me then and all through my life, even though I wasn't doing the right things all the time. There was a lot of people in my life that were doing things, helping me make it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because this is going to go around, and we're focusing in the South, and in a lot of our areas or territories, we aren't in big cities. We're in Nichols, we're in Sylvester, we're in these smaller towns, and there's got to be another Ashley Johnson out there sitting there trying to make it, delivering newspapers and doing those types of things that I just feel like your story could inspire them. So that's just the reason. And I don't want it to do. I know you're not a bragger. I know, and I'm not. I'm not even saying some things right now because I know there are things that you don't want anybody to know about, the things that you do for people, and you don't want me to bring that up. So Ashley, what do you enjoy most about running Ashley's Business Solutions?
Well, today, I mean, what's great about it is, I mean, you're in it. Michael's in it. 2 sons in the business. Some of my best friends are in the business. My wife works in the business some. Everything is just, that's awesome. We're jumping way ahead here.
Right.
But, I mean, I've worked 40-something years to get to this point to where I do the fun stuff now. Not so much the day to day, you know. But just having y'all in the business and watching y'all, had a grandson work this summer in the business,
Yep.
watching him work, and then like I said, that means a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and you got a nephew that works in the business.
Chad. I mean, got a nephew in it, 2 sons in it, a wife. I had a grandson, and I got some of my best friends are in the business.
Yep.
People I've known and know their kids forever, for 40 years, 30 years.
Yeah, I think that, what we have and what I saw at a company recently in Darien that we had a business after hours at, almost everybody that works for you has been there for most of the time you've been in business. I can't say that anymore.
We don't have enough turnover.
Yeah.
we do keep people stay with us for a long time.
Long time.
We do a lot of special things, but they're special people too.
Like you talked about, our people.
Right.
There are, and I've grown up around a lot of them, but and I know I'm biased, but the reason that I feel like I can go in front of people and talk the way I do and present Ashley's the way I do is because of the people that you've hired and the people that have been there for so long. The Todd Pritchards, the Chad Pritchards. I mean, I think we go to these Canon trainings and all this stuff, and the Canon people talk about our guys.
They do.
We're a beta testing center for Canon. All the new age technologies and stuff, the Todds and our people are very good at. But not just Todd and Chad. I mean you got the Wendy's, Wendy's.
We got a great group.
The people, and I know she just retired, but Sue and all these people that have been there so long, and it's just a great group of people. And I hate to say I don't know everybody anymore. We've grown so big. And
I'm not sure I know everybody.
I know every day I see somebody's name on the out list that I don't even know. But I believe you're over 70 and something employees now.
I think we have somewhere in around 70 something, 75 maybe.
I know we had talked about possibly doing part 1, part 2, and trying to breaking this thing up. Anything else that you would like to say today? Anything that you missed, that you left out, or anything you want to clarify, or anything like that?
Well, I could go on and on and on. So
yeah,
but I think that we skipped around a lot, but I think you got a little bit of just about me. Not that I want it, but maybe we can start talking about a lot of other different things when I meet with you some.
Yeah.
And we won't be talking about what I call the war stories and all that. I think we need to get over that and talk about how God's blessed us and things that we're doing in our business and our lives now, and worry about the future more so than what we did in the past.
I agree. We just got to go over the past so we can talk about the future.
Yep, that's right.
I know you, like you said, you got in your comfort zone a little bit, but you've built an amazing company, and I know you don't like to brag or don't want to brag, but you've built one of the most successful office equipment dealerships in the nation. Top 25 Canon dealer in the country, and come a long way from Nichols, Georgia. Come a long way from Nichols, and I just thank you for everything you do, and I love you, Daddy. Thank you for being my first guest on the podcast.
Okay,
it means a lot to me. Woo! But
that's okay.
I'm a crybaby too. Anyway, thank everybody for coming on. And this was the first episode of the Southern Executive Experience podcast presented by Ashley's Business Solutions. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome.